The deepest pit of despair isn't bottomless. It's the one you never leave because you're afraid to climb the first rung. For Ben, his pit was the space between his humble little homestead and the vast, fertile valley just across the winding, treacherous Blackwood Pass. Every morning the rising sun would cast a golden path over the valley, a land of promised space for cattle and clean, fast-running water. But that same sun, as it illuminated the twisting road leading up the pass, turned the path into a serpent of terror in Ben's mind. He was a capable man, strong of back and sharp of mind, yet for 3 long years, a paralyzing nameless dread had anchored him to the spot, preventing him from migrating to the life he and his wife Ilara deserved. This story isn't about the mountain he faced. It's about the mountain he built inside his own heart. Ben's paralysis was slowly crushing Ilara's spirit. She was a woman of vibrant, hopeful energy, but the constant shadow of fear that clung to Ben was chilling her laughter. Their current plot was small, the soil thin, and their resources dwindling. "Ben," she would say gently, placing a hand on his broad, stiff shoulder as he stared out the window at the distant and beckoning horizon. Others cross the pass every day. Young men, old women. They make the journey without faltering. What is it that holds you? Is the mountain physically stronger than you are? Ben couldn't explain it. He didn't fear the cold or the heights. He feared failure. He feared the loss of the little they had. And most of all, he feared the sheer finality of commitment. If he started, he had to finish. If he failed, there was no returning to this familiar, painful safety. One chill autumn evening, defeated by the sight of the first meager frost, Ben made a stark decision. He couldn't go forward, but he couldn't stay still any longer. "Ilara," he said, his voice rough with shame, "I must find old Silas. He lives beyond the river bend, the one they call the Quiet Weaver. If anyone can see the root of this blight within me, it is him." Silas was an ancient man, a recluse who had settled in the lowlands decades ago, renowned for his serene composure and his unsettling ability to dissect any problem down to its simplest truth. Early the next morning, Ben left Ilara with a promise. He wouldn't return until he had found the key to unlock the iron cage he had built around his own spirit. After a long journey on foot, Ben found Silas's cottage nestled beside a swift-flowing creek. Silas, with eyes the color of worn granite and a beard like spun silver, was weaving a simple basket from willow reeds. Ben knelt, offering a small, carved wooden bird. "Why, Silas?" Ben began, his words tumbling out in a rush. "I have come for freedom. I want to cross the Blackwood Pass to the fertile valley, but a darkness, a terror I cannot name, arrests my feet. It is invisible, yet stronger than any chain. I see the bounty on the other side, but I can't move. Tell me, old one, how do you defeat a phantom foe?" He finished, breathless, waiting for a profound and difficult answer. Silas stopped weaving, his hands stilling over the reeds. He looked at Ben, not with judgment, but with deep understanding. "The phantom foe, Ben, is the easiest to defeat, for it has no substance," Silas said, his voice soft as creek water. "Your terror is not the mountain itself, but the story you tell yourself about the mountain. You are so focused on the impossibility of the entire journey, the rocks that might fall, the storms that might strike, the hunger you might suffer, that you forget the most crucial truth. Fear is not foresight. It is merely the overactive anticipation of pain, a shadow that looms largest when you are standing completely still." Ben stayed for 3 days, trying to grasp the lesson, but the intellectual understanding wasn't enough. On the 3rd day, Silas handed Ben a staff and pointed to a massive, jagged boulder sitting barely 50 paces away. "Go touch that rock," Silas commanded. Ben, confused, walked over and placed his hand on the cold stone. "Now, Ben," Silas continued, "I want you to tell me exactly how many times you were terrified. How many times you panicked. How many times you thought of giving up during those 50 steps." Ben paused, baffled. "None, Silas. Why would I be? It was only 50 paces. "Exactly," Silas replied, resuming his weaving. "You were not afraid of the 50 paces you took because you were acting. Your mind was engaged in movement, not in spinning a terrible future. The mind only turns against you when you give it the vast, empty space of inaction to fill with dreadful hypotheticals. You are not afraid of Blackwood Pass. You are afraid of the thousands of steps you have not yet taken. And that fear is a mirage." Silas then revealed the ultimate secret to overcoming fear, a deceptively simple tool: the next small thing. Your mind insists that you must solve the entire problem, cross the whole pass in this one moment, and that impossible task paralyzes you, Silas explained. But life, Ben, only requires one choice at a time. The first step on the pass is only the challenge of lifting your foot. It is not the challenge of crossing the summit. The moment you are overwhelmed, you must retreat, not to rest, but to the next single necessary action. Focus only on finding a firm place for your boot, and nothing else. Every act of courage is just a string of small, non-terrifying actions taken one after the other. Ben sat by the creek, the old man's words finally sinking past his ears and into the soil of his heart. He realized that the enormous shadow that had held him captive was not cast by the pass itself, but by his own refusal to move. The fear wasn't a monster. It was the cumulative weight of untaken decisions. He stood up, the staff suddenly feeling lighter in his hand, and thanked Silas with a depth of gratitude he had never known. He hadn't gained strength or speed. He had simply gained the permission to focus on the immediate present. Freedom was not the destination. Freedom was the power to take the very first step. Ben returned home, not with a proclamation of victory, but with the quiet resolve of a man who finally knew the rules of the fight. He greeted a nervous Ilara, shared a meal, and spoke only of the next morning. When the sun rose and cast its golden light over the pass, Ben smiled for the first time in years. He didn't look at the summit, the treacherous curves, or the fertile valley beyond. He looked only at the first yard of the path right outside their door. "We are going," he told Ilara, who stared at him, tears welling in her eyes. Ben took the cart, harnessed the cow, and with one foot crossed the invisible line he had drawn in the dirt. He had not solved the problem of the mountain, but he had solved the problem of fear. They did not conquer the pass in one magnificent surge, but in thousands of small, firm, deliberate steps. Whenever fear crept into Ben's mind, usually at the steepest parts, when the wind howled, he would stop, identify the next single step that was not terrifying, and take it. He used the memory of Silas's peaceful weaving as an anchor. Weeks later, tired but utterly free, they crested the final ridge and looked down into the promised valley. It was more beautiful than they had ever imagined, and it belonged to them, not because they were stronger than the mountain, but because Ben had finally realized that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act anyway, one step at a time. The iron cage was gone, unlocked by the key of sustained small action. I hope Ben and Ilara's journey across the Blackwood Pass gives you the motivational push you were looking for. The story focuses on breaking down massive, paralyzing fears into tiny, manageable tasks, a classic strategy for overcoming any great challenge. If you enjoyed this tale of old-world wisdom leading to modern freedom, please like and subscribe the channel and comment your opinion in the end. Let me know which part of the story resonated most with you.